globalisation. We're going to talk about Thomas Friedman, Stiglitz and Klein. Thomas Friedman wrote a very influential book called The World is Flat, A Brief History of the 21st Century. And he frames it as starting with 11.9 and finishing with 9.11 using American spelling. He was a journalist, a 3-time Pulitzer Prize winner. He writes for the New York Times, according to Friedman. Passion and curiosity are key components for education. He has proposed an illustrative formula where curiosity quotient plus passion quotient is greater than IQ. Okay. In The World is Flat, he looks at globalisation, the impact of globalisation. He analyses it primarily as a 21st century invention. The title is a metaphor for viewing the world as a level playing field in terms of commerce, wherein all competitors have an equal opportunity. The 10 flatteners are the collapse of the Berlin Wall, which signified the opening of the previously closed Soviet Union, the introduction of Netscape, workflow software, the ability to upload technology, outsourcing, offshoring, supply chaining, insourcing, informing, and then he refers to the steroids of Wi-Fi and voice over IP. Joseph Stiglitz, Columbia University economist, formerly Senior Vice President, Chief Economist of the World Bank. The failure of globalisation to deliver on the promises of mainstream politicians has surely undermined trust and confidence in the establishment. So you can see that Stiglitz is the opposite, perhaps, of Thomas Friedman. In the US, the bottom 90% has endured income stagnation for a third of a century. Median income for a full-time male worker is lower in real inflation-adjusted terms than it was 42 years ago. At the bottom, real wages are comparable to their level 60 years ago. Under the assumption of perfect markets, which underlies most neoliberal economic analyses, free trade equalizes the wages of unskilled workers around the world. Trade in goods is a substitute for the movement of people. Importing goods from China reduces the demand for unskilled workers in Europe and the US. Naomi Klein is also an activist opposed to globalization. She's made a number of films and books. Her first book, No Logo, and then a documentary film, The Take, in 2004. So No Logo was the manifesto of the anti-corporate globalization movement. Klein accuses several corporations of unethically exploiting workers in the world's poorest countries. Fences and Windows came in 2002 as a collection of her articles and speeches written on behalf of the anti-globalization movement. The rise of disaster capitalism argues that the free market policies of Friedman and the Chicago School of Economics have risen to prominence in countries such as Chile, Poland, Russia, and the United States. Central to the book's thesis is the contention that those who wish to implement unpopular free market policies now routinely do so by taking advantage of certain features of the aftermath of major disasters, economic, political, military, or natural. Thomas Piketty, I'm sure you've heard of his book, Capital in the 21st Century. The book's central thesis is that when the rate of return on capital is greater than the rate of economic growth over the long term, the result is concentration of wealth. And this unequal distribution of wealth causes social and economic instability. Piketty proposes a global system of progressive wealth taxes to help reduce inequality and avoid the vast majority of wealth coming under the control of a tiny minority. Next, we're going to look at the laws which govern technology adoption.